We're live.
Oh, is this thing on? I don't care. I want him to hear.
This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game.
Hi, how are you?
Second down 9. Darnold getting messy, going deep. He's got Jefferson. It's a foot race downfield with Brown. Shifting gears. Getting a block. That's 6. 97 yards. Holy smokes.
Seeing ghosts.
I think 49ers fans are seeing ghosts after that one. Justin Jefferson, 97-yard bomb ski from one Sam Darnold by way of Fight On University. And the 49ers suffer their first loss of this regular season. Vikings get it done at home, 23-17, the final there. Kevin Harlan on the call, CBS Sports. And man, we got a lot to dive into today. I'm just going to give out the number, 888-957-9570. You can call or text the Xfinity mobile text line. Also hit us up on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, all powered by First NorCal Credit Union. We are streaming on all of those services. Again, search 95.7 The Game, like and subscribe. You can give me a follow at Spadoni_Joe on X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it. But let's get right into it. Niners, week 2, get their first L. Didn't get their first loss until week 6 of last year, and obviously that was the PJ Walker game. That was the rainy game. That was Trent, Debo, people getting hurt. Wasn't a good time. But this one, from start to finish, was just kind of an ass kicking from the Minnesota Vikings. It was close at the end. And if not for Fred Warner, who, again, should have been in DPOY conversations last year, is already starting that campaign off again early into this season. If not for him, this would have been a blowout. He does the peanut punch at the goal line there to save what would have been just a disaster of a game. He's flying all over the place. He's trying to make play after play after play. He's the leader on that defense, and without Dre Greenlaw, which, again, we'll get into that because there's problems on this 49ers defense. And no, we don't have Steve Wilks to scapegoat anymore. Sorry. Steve Wilks isn't on this team anymore. So we're going to give Nick Sorensen that same energy as we did Steve Wilks last year? I'll be interested to see that. But Devondre Campbell, just doesn't have that speed and explosiveness that Dre Greenlaw provides. And again, Dre Greenlaw coming off that Achilles injury. I don't even know if is he going to play this year? I don't know. It's kind of an injury where you see what happens. And speaking of injuries, maybe the biggest, not even maybe, around the nation it was the biggest because it has fantasy implication, but Christian McCaffrey getting put on the IR. And then Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network saying, yeah, this could last longer than just 4 games. Because when you go on the IR, it's a minimum. The next 4 games, you are out. He's saying it could be 6, 7, 8 games, potentially. Then you're looking at, is he out for the whole season? So just a disaster weekend for the San Francisco 49ers. And this is the beauty of football. Last week, you were riding high. No Christian McCaffrey, no problem. We got Jordan Mason. Everything's all good. We're not losing to Sam Darnold. We're not losing to a team without Jordan Addison. Let's double Justin Jefferson. We'll be fine. Well, Justin Jefferson does what Justin Jefferson does because he's the best wide receiver in football. He shreds defenses. Doesn't matter who you got back there. He's going to shred you. He's going to make you pay. And Sam Darnold, he's got an arm. He's got touch. As a thrower of the football, he's got elite stuff. It's the decision-making at times that has really hampered him throughout his career thus far. Again, top 5 pick coming out of USC. But it was on full display yesterday. He did throw a pick. If it was over under half, I should have bet the over. That felt like a safe bet. But the opposing quarterback, Brock Purdy, wasn't much better. Strip sack fumble. He threw a pick. He tried to force it in there. He was sacked 6 times. That's not a recipe for success. So 888-957-9570. I want to hear from you 49ers fans. Your biggest takeaway from yesterday's loss to the Minnesota Vikings could be the quarterback, could be the defense. And I was listening yesterday to Mark Grandy and Sterling Bennett doing a hell of a job on the overtime show after every 49ers win or loss. Join Grandy, Bennett, and Kyle Madsen. Kyle Madsen on vacation yesterday, though, but he'll be back the rest of the season. Kyle deserves it. But I heard a lot of callers calling out one Nick Bosa yesterday. Where was Nick Bosa at closing time? Well, Nick Bosa did have 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. I'm not going to be too hard on Nick Bosa. He also had a couple quarterback hits. Like, he was getting back there. But on the biggest drive of the game, when you needed to get a stop and you needed to stop the Minnesota Vikings from bleeding clock to make it not a 2-score game, which the Minnesota Vikings ended up doing, there was third down after third down after third down, and the Minnesota defense, check that, the Minnesota offense was just getting what they wanted. I mean, and to mention the Minnesota defense, which was also flying around. That was an impressive win for Minnesota. And we'll get into all the different games that took place this weekend. The Raiders going into Baltimore, massive win for them. They were down double digits in the fourth, ended up coming back there. You can get into, how the Texans looked last night against a really good Chicago Bears defense. Caleb Williams. I haven't given up hope. I mean, the guy was pressured, I think, 36 times last night. God love him as a rookie, but it's something about that Chicago Bears franchise. Maybe he doesn't have a shot. I don't know. Rooting for the kid. But there was a lot of impressive victories over this past weekend, and the Vikings might have been the most impressive, just given the narrative around that quarterback, Sam Darnold. And let's give Kevin O'Connell, head coach, a lot of credit too. I think he is tremendously underrated. When we talk about all the head coaches and the elite young head coaches here, Kevin O'Connell gets the most out of his quarterbacks. Whether it's Kirk Cousins, whether it was Josh Dobbs last year, hell, whether it was Nick Mullins. And now we're seeing with Sam Darnold. We didn't think, he beat the Giants, whatever. Giants stink. The Niners don't. The Niners are defending NFC's champions. This team is good. And this is back-to-back seasons now, 2 different quarterbacks. And give Brian Flores, defensive coordinator, a lot of credit as well. Even after the game, Brock Purdy said this guy's scheme is crazy. He said it to his face. Give Kevin O'Connell a lot of credit. The only NFC team, by the way, to beat Brock Purdy. And twice. Not once, but twice. The Minnesota Vikings. They've done it twice now. 888-957-9570 is the number. Biggest takeaway from yesterday's loss for you, San Francisco 49ers fans. Could be just from the game. Could be just a broader picture. What did you like? What did you not like? It's your reaction today, all day, right here on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570. Good morning to all you lovely people just getting off work, getting ready for work, getting ready for school. Hope you had a lovely weekend. A little overcast yesterday in the East Bay. I don't mind. I don't really care what the weather is outside on a Sunday because I'm locked in, start to finish. And I hate early window games when both the Raiders and the Niners are playing because I have to double. And for the job, I'm mainly focusing in on the Niners game, but thankfully you got TV, got your phone, you got your tablet. I was all over the place. You got Red Zone. It was an insane day yesterday around the NFL. You had overtime with Seattle, New England. Seattle moves to 2-0. They're now first in the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals and Marvin Harrison Jr. absolutely destroying the Los Angeles Rams. Rams are in shambles. That's who the Niners are facing next. Both these teams coming off bad losses, although the Rams, Cooper Kupp hurt, Puka Nacua hurt, Matt Stafford is getting pummeled. Might be a get-right game next week for the San Francisco 49ers, which, again, is Levi's South. So, Josh in Castro Valley wants to join in the conversation. 888-957-9570. What's going on, Josh? You're on the pregame show, Joe Spadoni.
What up, Spadoni, man? Good morning to you. Yeah, man, I just want to talk about this game. I think it was an interesting game. It had just a weird feel from the beginning. The thing that caught me off guard the most was the trenches, man. I think we were talking so much about the offensive line after the Jets game. You're thinking, if the offensive line can protect Purdy, he's going to deal. We're going to be able to run the ball, and they couldn't do either. The pass rush was getting to them constantly. They couldn't, get the first down runs that they were getting last week. And if they can't get that, then the offense struggles because Kyle can't dial up the play actions. And that's the second thing I think that caught me off guard was the play calling. I think that we had, passes to Juszczyk last time, Purdy rolling out the pocket. Kyle got a little bit stagnant, and I think that's what happens when you can't run the ball. That's what you've seen in big games when they lose, when they can't run it and get early chunks on first downs, and they don't know what to do. They can't get there to their play actions, and they can't get to the fun stuff, and then the offense kind of just dries up. So it happened with Garoppolo. It's kind of happening with Purdy. So I think it's just interesting how Kyle calls plays when he can't run the ball. And I think that's something to worry about, because I think that's what defenses are going to do early in games and try to slow us down. And then my third point is, where's BA? Where's Brandon Ayuk? You know, at first week I didn't worry too much about it, but you know, you paid $30 million. You got to dial plays up for this guy. You got to get him the ball. You got to target him at least 6-7 times a game if he's going to be that guy. So, you know, it's just one loss. I'm not too worried about it. The Vikings did look pretty good. Darnold, I always thought he was a decent quarterback. You know, you can't get up the bottom to Justin Jefferson. Those are plays that just can't happen. But I'm not going to be too worried. Should get back against the Rams, but we got to win in the trenches. We got to get more physical, and you know, you got to find BA the ball, man. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, Josh. That's Josh out in Castro Valley. 888-957-9570. Yeah, a lot of great points there. Start with that last one, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, 4 receptions, 43 yards, but he's just, you don't see him on the screen. I'm waiting for his name to be called throughout the game, and it just hasn't been. And whether that's just rust, him and Purdy getting on the same page, this is what happens, though. Like, this is what we were talking about as a station for months. Even when he does come back, Brandon Ayuk, it's going to take a while. And he's not going to have the same season he did last year, because it's really hard to do that when you miss all of training camp and OTAs and all the stuff that's supposed to familiarize yourself within an offense. And with your quarterback specifically. So you look at a guy like Brandon Ayuk. Hell, you look at a guy like Jamar Chase, who it hasn't been easy for these first 2 games of Joe Burrow. Like, he was getting frustrated on the sideline. And by the way, what a tremendous game that was. Get the late penalty there. Mahomes does what Mahomes does. Extends. DPI. Game over. Harrison Butker's not missing that 50-yarder. He's made too many clutch kicks in his career. So, yes, I think we're just realizing now in real time, and I think a lot of us did prior to it, but a lot of fans are now realizing, oh yeah, training camp matters. And, you know, maybe Ayuk does have a breakout game next week against the Rams or against the Patriots or against whoever. But it took a couple games to get there, and yesterday cost you a loss. And that wasn't just on him. But the play calling, sure. I mean, I don't think Kyle Shanahan wanted to throw it 36 times. That's not the Kyle Shanahan way. The total carries, only 25. Not a recipe for success. It's not. The Kyle Shanahan offense and the San Francisco 49ers offense wants to get their 30 carries. And Jordan Mason, you know, if there's no McCaffrey, you got to keep running the guy. I know you want to limit touches for everyone, but Mason's got fresh legs. 20 carries, he should have had 5 more. Get to that 30 mark. I mean, 20 carries for 100 yards. He was running it well, averaging 5 yards a carry. He had a touchdown. I was very impressed with Jordan Mason yesterday. But it goes back to Kyle Shanahan and goes back to Nick Sorensen in this defense. When you're playing from behind, especially late, it's hard to start trying to, you know, oh, let's run it. So, no, you got time wasting. And you got to let Purdy sling it. And when the offensive line was as putrid as it was yesterday, I'm looking at Trent Williams, I'm looking at, you know, Brendel, I'm looking at everyone. McKivitz, they're getting their asses kicked at times yesterday. I came away from this game, it's not even about the 49ers. This is about the Minnesota Vikings defense and Brian Flores. That's what was a lasting image in my head. Van Ginkel, who always makes plays, by the way. Andrew Van Ginkel is one of the most slept-on players in the league. Maybe we laugh at him because the hair and the name is just funny to say, Van Ginkel. Sounds like it's like a nursery rhyme name. Was that Rip Van Winkle? Andrew Van Ginkel? Like, he's a good player. All he did in Miami was make plays, and all he was doing yesterday was making plays. Byron Murphy, Stephon Gilmore, he forgets on that team. Just Harrison Smith's been doing it forever. Pat Jones. Who? Pat Jones, the second. Then they got Dallas Turner. It's just, they lost Danielle Hunter, and we saw him last night, obviously, with the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football as Houston improves to 2-0. But they just have depth. They just have depth on that defensive unit. And for the 49ers, I think you'd rather have this loss early in the season than, midway point of last year. Like they did have that loss against the Minnesota Vikings after the loss to the Cleveland Browns, and they had that 3-game losing streak. And everyone was piling on Steve Wilkes. I'm waiting for everyone to pile on Nick Sorensen today. The same thing. Nick Sorensen's been within this system for a couple of years now, right? I didn't see any complex blitz packages. I saw Nick Bosa get there a couple times. That's about it. I saw Fred Warner do everything he can. Fred was trying to do everything he could, but it wasn't enough. I saw the secondary get shredded at times. I mean, Justin Jefferson just absolutely snatching Tig Brown's soul in that soul secondary. Soul of the secondary, I should say. Man, Justin Jefferson, he's one of one. We were talking about it on Friday in the morning show. Just no one's on his level right now. Tyreek Hill is elite. Devontae Adams, who had some insane catches yesterday, still elite. A.J. Brown, amazing. And A.J. Brown, unfortunately, going to be out tonight. Fantasy owners everywhere cringing with that. Thankfully, it was announced before 10 a.m. yesterday, Pacific time. Doesn't matter because I got my ass kicked anyways. Yeah, I'm off the Caleb train. He's done. Done. Sorry. Fantasy, I had high hopes, but no. Back to Baker. Got Baker Mayfield. Tampa Bay. Talking about impressive victories. That might have been one of the most impressive as well. Going into Detroit, the team that beat you in the playoffs. Baker balling out. All right. Should we hear from some of the people after the game? Let's hear from the head coach. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. I want to hear from you as well. 49ers fans, your biggest takeaways from yesterday's loss. What did you like? What did you not like? Is it time to panic? It's week 2. This is the beauty of football. You win week 1. You're Super Bowl champions. You lose game 2. You suck. You're not doing anything. The season's over. All of that. 500. You're fine. By the way, if you've looked around the NFC West, everyone's up and down. Seattle Seahawks, they're 2-0, but I haven't really been impressed with either of their wins. Arizona, though, that offense is for real. Defense, we'll see. Kyle Shanahan on the impact of, first off, Fred Warner, because that's who I want to start with as I go Matt Steinmetz, John Sally, Fred Warner, and his turnovers yesterday.
I mean, the 2 turnovers were huge. That's what gave us a chance. I mean, both of them were just like what he did versus the Jets. He made a good job in zone, reading Sam and getting the pick, but then not giving up on that screen and knocking that ball out was the same as last week.
He's unbelievable. I mean, he is the best linebacker in football. And when it's all said and done, he might be the best linebacker in the history of the 49ers. And yeah, that includes a guy that just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. You might have heard of him, Patrick Willis. That's how good Fred Warner is. Try to do everything he can to get this defense to make stops. And he almost did will him back to a victory. It's rare you see a linebacker will a team to victory. He almost did that yesterday. Here's Kyle Shanahan, though, talking about the offensive line of the pass protection.
I mean, that's why we tried really hard not to get in those situations. When you do, that's why football becomes a lot harder. There's times you can chip, which we did, things like that. But they also have very good blitz scheme, caused a lot of confusion, give them a lot of credit to it, and just got to keep working.
Second time we've heard from a 49ers personnel member just talking about the scheme from Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. Brock Purdy said it after the game to Brian Flores, and Kyle Shanahan after the game talking to the media. That scheme is for real. Is Oreo Cookie for real on a Monday morning? What's up, Oreo?
Hey, what's going on, man? Good morning. I don't want to start panicking. It is only game 2, but something's up with these slow starts, these 3 and outs. We come out trying to pass the ball. We are a running team, run the ball first. And then with these balls that are getting batted down for Purdy, that's something to keep an eye on, man, because it's a timing mechanism, and these people are getting their hands up and getting their hands on the ball. That's going to be a problem.
For sure. That's Oreo Cookie out in Oaktown, 888-957-9570. The Purdy performance, I look at the box score, 28-36, 319 yards, touchdown, and pick. He's okay. By Purdy performances, though, it wasn't great. It wasn't. He was forcing some balls, and you got to give credit to the defense there. But it's okay to criticize the chosen one. He didn't have a great game. A lot of that is circumstantial. A lot of that is offensive line wasn't good. Right? He gave up on the running game too fast. And then was forced to put on Brock's arm. And for as much as I love Brock Purdy, I don't know if I want him getting into the 36 to 40 passing attempts. That's just not a recipe for success in a Kyle Shanahan offense, especially if Brandon Ayuk, your trusted target last year, second team All-Pro coming off that amazing season, isn't going to be the guy. Now, Debo had a tremendous day. 8 receptions, $110. He had George Kittle chipping in as well. Thankfully, he's okay. And that was another overarching theme of this, the injuries. Saw Justin Jefferson get hurt. Nick Bosa got rolled up on. He thought he was going to be out. Ended up being okay. George Kittle, another guy who got carted off. He ends up being okay. Just getting out of this game relatively healthy after the news you got over the weekend about Christian McCaffrey. Probably the best news you could have asked for because they got that turf. It's new turf. Just go to grass, people. I just don't know what we're doing. But I digress. That's a conversation that we're going to have for the next 3-4 years, whatever the hell the World Cup is, 2 more years until all these stadiums get grass installed. So the 49ers, at least offensively, 17 points in today's NFL is not going to cut it, especially on the road. And they were talking about it early. Hey, Kyle Shanahan knew this was going to be a tough game, a tough environment. And Nick Bosa, we all kind of laughed at him, thinking that he was taking a sneaky shot at the Jets. When he said last week, he's like, no, the Vikings are just a better team than the Jets. And again, getting prepared for him was just going to be, you know what, more attention to detail. And he was right. The Vikings are better than the Jets right now. And they kicked the Niners' ass. They did. Final score might not say that, but for the most part, that Minnesota defense kicked the 49ers offense in the tuchus. All right. George Kittle, a decent game. Here he is talking about Christian McCaffrey's absence and things that you just can't do without him.
Christian is the offensive MVP for a reason. He was in the MVP voting for a reason. He had 20-plus touchdowns for a reason because he does it all in the pass game, in the run game. It's like, I mean, it's really fun because it's like having Debo and him are just interchangeable. Like you'll have Christian running routes, and then all of a sudden you put a Mike linebacker on him, and Debo's in the backfield. You have no idea what you're going to get. So it just gives us another dimension. And then, he's voted he didn't do anything. He didn't do OTAs. He didn't do really much at training camp. He still voted a captain. So like, there's the impact that you guys can see. He has an incredible impact on this team. Just him being around, he boosts everyone's confidence. But I still think we could have. We won last week. I think we had opportunities to find a way to win today, and we just didn't. But it's just there's things that we can't do without Christian.
There's just things you can't do without him. I mean, he's the best player offensively in the NFL outside of Patrick Mahomes and a couple other quarterbacks. He is. And although it was funny, there was a conversation that Steiny and Goo had on Friday. I think Philmo Mike got upset because we weren't previewing the actual game, but it was interesting. If you could have one of these players on your team right now, which one would they be? And just given health, let's say both of them are healthy, but it'd be Justin Jefferson or Christian McCaffrey. And obviously Christian didn't play, but you look at what Justin Jefferson's capable of, just in your own goal line and just torching the secondary, and Darnold just going YOLO. I mean, it changed the game. It changed everything. It says, oh, wait. Oh, Sam Darnold? Oh, is he for real? Like, that was the throw. If Darnold doesn't make that, it's like, see, Sam Darnold's not making that throw, but he did. He made it. It's like, oh, is this the same Sam Darnold? I don't think so. And that throw and that catch and that 97-yard touchdown made the 49ers and made Nick Sorensen's ears perk up saying, okay, we got to respect this guy's arm. So much so that they played a soft coverage and they got shredded on third down after third down after third down. Speaking of the third downs, here's George Kittle talking about the 49ers offense and failing to convert on third down.
Not converting on third down. We have opportunities. They're like, it's not like we're on 3rd and 15s like the first 2 drives. I'm pretty sure they were manageable third downs. We just didn't convert. That's hard. And then you go down to the red zone and we don't get a touchdown on 4th down. We have that was a sick play actually between Sam and JJ to go all the way 97 yards. That was not fun to watch, but it was cool. But that's just kind of hard when you don't score and they score 2 plays later.
Not fun. Good to know that George is appreciating still amazing plays, even if it is against him. He's like, I did not like it, but it was really impressive, right? You got to tip your cap sometimes, and that was just an incredible throw and catch. You should have been able to do more in the secondary, probably look foolish if you're Nick Sorensen, defensive coordinator, but Justin Jefferson's the best in the business when it comes to that position. Now, here's the head coach talking about failure to convert on third downs.
We didn't convert on third down. When you go I think we were 2 of 9 on third down, which usually doesn't lead to touchdowns very much unless you're doing it all on first and second. 1 of 3 on fourth down doesn't help. I think we finished, on that last, we were 2 of 4 in the red zone. So it was a challenge today, and we can do better.
And we can do better too. 888-957-9570. We're going to do better because we have 2 more segments here on the pregame show before handing it off to Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky. And all day long, we're reacting to this game right here, 95.7 The Game. Don't go anywhere else for your 49ers coverage. 888-957-9570, the number. All day long, we want to hear from you. What did you like? What did you not like? Is the season over? Is it just a little blip on the radar? How are we feeling, 49ers fans? 888-957-9570. Minnesota Vikings 23, 49ers 17, as we continue to break down the 49ers' first loss of the season right here on the pregame show, 95.7 The Game.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I have a serious heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM. Some symptoms include being short of
5-7 the game with Joe Spadoni.
Third down and 15. Here comes Van Ginkel. Ball deflected. It's picked off on the ricochet. Grab right there. Jonah Williams. No, make it Jihad Ward. Jihad Ward got the ricochet in that congested area.
Kevin Harlan on the call, CBS Sports. Jihad Ward, Raider legend by way of Syracuse University. Look at that. That knowledge. Ended up being a fumble recovery, not a pick. So Brock officially with one interception on the day, but 2 turnovers nonetheless that were killers. Turnover on downs as well. So just was not a good day for the San Francisco 49ers offense as they fall to the Minnesota Vikings 23-17. Niners 1-1, Vikings 2-0. The Niners looking up in the NFC West as the Seattle Seahawks now have first place there, but we're breaking down the game all day long right here on 95.7 The Game. Good morning to all you lovely people just getting off work and ready for work. Hope you had a lovely weekend. I know yesterday Niners fans was tough, but it's the beauty of the NFL. You're going to be down all week. You're going to be upset, and we want you to call in here. We don't want you to go full isolation mode. We don't want you to do that. We don't want you to block out all the national noise, all the no. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your frustration, your passion. Or maybe you're not even that frustrated. Maybe you're like, you know what? We're going to be okay. Maybe you're an optimist. That's fine too. It's not the way I vibe as a fan, but hey, you do you. 888-957-9570 from the Xfinity mobile text line. At least the 49ers don't have to pay Brock $60 million per year anymore, the 415. After one game, we're not resetting the quarterback market? We'll see. Again, the 49ers schedule coming up here, people. The decimated Rams. Then you're back at home against the Patriots, who are not very good. Maybe Drake May's going to be starting by then because Jacoby Brissett. Then the Cardinals, which might be a trickier matchup than you thought. Then the Seahawks. Then the Chiefs. So at least these next 2 games, you should be able to get back on track. You should be able to. Now, shoulda, coulda, woulda. You're going to be favored in all these games remaining except for the Kansas City Chiefs, I would think. And maybe then it's, you're a 1.2 point favorite, but if it was a neutral site game, you wouldn't be. But the 49ers took an L. It's not the end of the world. Having said that, there are things that are concerning. First and foremost, you don't have your best player on offense. No Christian McCaffrey makes things a lot more difficult. You can win without him, but you need to tighten up everything else. You can't have multiple turnovers from your quarterback if you're going to win. You can't be not capitalizing on opportunities when they present themselves. You can't be relying on just 2 guys on defense. It needs to be a collective. It can't just be Bosa. It can't just be Fred Warner. It has to be everyone involved. And that was what's so special about last season for the 49ers. Every single unit was cohesive. Whether it was the offensive line, whether it was the defensive line, whether it was the linebacking core with Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, whether it was, the secondary at times stepping up, whether it was the wide receivers, the running back room, like everyone stepped up, the quarterback, obviously. And now you're facing early adversity in a season. If you're San Francisco, how are they going to react to it? Well, they get their first opportunity against the Rams this year at SoFi Stadium. I think that's a pretty good opportunity to flex their muscles on a team that's wounded heavily right now. Here's the head coach, though, talking about his old quarterback and backup quarterback from last year, a guy that started against said Rams when Carson Wentz was the Rams starting quarterback on the other side last year at Levi Stadium. Here's Kyle Shanahan on Sam Darnold.
Didn't surprise me. We knew we were up for a challenge. Sam is a hell of a quarterback. He's got a lot of arm talent, and we also knew just scrambling-wise was going to be a different challenge today, and he got us in a couple scrambles, too, that he's done that his whole career. He's done it in college, and we knew we had a challenge.
He's mobile. Aaron Rodgers wasn't. You're able to get away with a lot of stuff last week because Aaron Rodgers can't move. That's not going to be the case all the time. Stafford, not as mobile anymore, but he's got a little wiggle room. Then you got maybe Drake May. Again, we'll see. Jacoby Brissett for now. May's got some athleticism. It's a rookie. Then Kyler Murray's on docket. Then you got Patrick Mahomes. And then you got Dak. And then, Geno Smith can move around a little bit. So you better be able to contain some of these guys defensively. And at times you were. But far too often, and going back, I'm not here to just open up old wounds, but Super Bowl, you can go with that, whatever. 49ers historically have struggled against mobile quarterbacks. They just have. Contain is a thing. And last year, for the most part in that Super Bowl, they were doing a great job until they weren't. And until Patrick Mahomes took matters into his own hands, they couldn't contain him anymore. He was scrambling. He was extending and getting touchdowns to Travis Kelce. From the Xfinity Mobile text line, 888-957-9570, Brock is okay from the 408. I like the fact that he didn't get gun shy. Kept on slinging it. You can't teach that. Yes, I just don't like the fact that they had to throw it damn near 40 times in that game. That's not a recipe for success. If Brock's throwing the ball like that, if you have to turn Brock into a gunslinger, the 49ers are not going to be a Super Bowl team. That's not his game. That's not the 49ers game, I should say. Not to say that Brock can't throw the ball well. He has tremendous touch. He has poise. He has all of that. I don't want him getting into a shootout, though. That means the 49ers defense is also getting shredded. And that's not the recipe for success. The recipe for success for Kyle Shanahan, as it always has been, is controlling the clock, controlling the time of possession, and wearing out opposing defenses, keeping your own defense fresh so that they can pin their ears back and make plays. They made some plays, but not enough yesterday. Why? Because it felt like the Niners defense is on the field a lot. And credit to Minnesota and Kevin O'Connell, the head coach, and Sam Darnold and that offense just picking up third down after third down after third down. And a guy that helps with that time of possession for the 49ers is obviously Christian McCaffrey in the run game, in the pass game. What's the timetable on him, Kyle Shanahan?
Nobody knows. We're dealing with tendonitis, so there's not one person knows. He doesn't know. We don't know. We can take it day by day. By putting him on IR, it's at least 4 weeks, so that'll give him some time to rest and kind of protect him from himself, us too. And no matter how he's feeling, it's 4 at the minimum.
4 at the minimum, and again, Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, over the weekend saying could be 6 to 8 weeks. So then you're looking at, week 11, 12? Then you're looking at damn near the entire season, it feels like, which with no Christian McCaffrey would be brutal. Let's hear from the guy with a couple sacks yesterday. A guy that I don't know how to grade his performance because you watch the game and he made plays. He was there. But in the biggest series when you needed him to make one, when the Minnesota Vikings were driving down at the end of the game and milking the clock and going up 2 scores, you needed a play from your guy, Nick Bosa. And you didn't get one, and I understand fans' frustration with that. Here he is talking about the Minnesota Vikings team as a whole.
Yeah, it's a really good coach and a lot of really good players. And Sam's doing a great job. So it's a wake-up call, but we know why it happened. There's a lot to fix. There's some good things for sure.
And here he is talking about third downs and the team failing.
It's huge, big part of the game, third down. That's why we have a whole day based on third down. It's how this league is, and we failed.
And finally, talking about the captain of that defense, the guy that just tried to will that team to a victory from the linebacker position, Fred Warner.
He's playing at an even higher level than he has in the past, which is saying a lot. So it's fun to play with him. He's like my security blanket out there. Just knowing he's there is huge, and he doesn't get too high when things are going good or too low when things are going bad, which is what you want from a leader.
Just an incredible stat line for Fred Warner, too. 9 total tackles, 7 solos, sack, tackle for loss, 2 pass breakups, quarterback hit. That's what you wanted in a massive fumble. Peanut punch for him. Just an incredible day, but unfortunately it's going to get lost in the shuffle because 49ers took the L. I want to hear from Fred Warner on the other side, though, as we wrap up the final segment of the pregame show, 888-957-9570. We'll hear from Fred Warner. We'll hear from Brock Purdy. And at the top of the hour, we'll hear from Joe Shasky and Bonte Hill. They're fired up, not in the good way, but in a bad way, as the 49ers fall to the Minnesota Vikings 23-17. We'll wrap up the pregame show on the other side 95.7 The Game.
Trying to lose weight, but fad diets and sketchy products from online clinics aren't working?
listening to the Pregame Show with Joe Spadoni right here on 95.7 The Game.
Thank you, Dante. Dante and Joe Shasky coming up next. Got another 12 minutes or so. Vikings 23, 49ers 17. The final. Niners 1-1, heading to SoFi Stadium next week to take on the Rams, who are 0-2, and they are bleeding. They are wounded. Recipe for a bounce back, but you know what? I'm not giving it to the Niners. Should they win? Probably. Will they? I don't know. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Sam Darnold. You know what? Good for Sam Darnold. I crush that guy ad nauseum. I mean, I play the drops all the time. I mean, the see and ghost stuff, seeing ghosts. It writes itself. And here's, as I go Chris Collinsworth, here's a guy who came out of USC who had all of the hype surrounding him, the arm talent, the size, the athleticism, everything. Goes to the Jets, and what do the Jets do? Well, they break their quarterbacks. They broke him, goes to Carolina, is broken there. And then he comes to the 49ers and, he's backup. It's fine. He had this one chance to start and fumbled the ball at the end against the Rams. In a game that was essentially meaningless. You have that game against, almost brought him back on Christmas Day, or night, I should say, against the Ravens. I remember that. Had a couple opportunities to make it a one-score game there late, and maybe you get onside kick or a couple timeouts, maybe you get the ball back. But that didn't happen. They ended up losing that. So he had a couple moments with the 49ers. And so far, with Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, they've been making some sweet music together these first couple games. Now, I am interested to see what their schedule is like moving forward, because as we'll talk about all weekend, the NFC right now, I don't know what to make of it. There's a lot of, jockeying for a position. It's early. There's 2 weeks in. We still got two more NFC teams to play tonight, Falcons and Eagles. There's a lot still to happen here. A lot still to shake out. And teams will start separating themselves as we go. And hell, the Niners the next couple of weeks might separate themselves. So there's a lot still to happen, but doesn't get easy for the Vikings, that's for sure. Hosting the Texans next week. On the road to Green Bay. We'll see if Jordan Love's back by then. Malik Willis got the job done yesterday, but a lot of that was due to Josh Jacobs going ham, 100-plus yards there for JJ. Then they got the Jets. Then they got the Lions. That's a tough 4-game stretch. We're going to find out if the Vikings are for real. We're going to find out if teams like the Vikings, teams like the Saints, who absolutely destroyed the Cowboys yesterday, are for real. Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator over in New Orleans now. We'll see. Is Derek Carr for real? I feel like, have we been asking that for the last 8 years? Is Derek Carr for real? God, it's just that every other year it feels like we have that conversation. So we'll see. I know the 49ers are for real. I do. But that doesn't mean they can't have flaws. And they have flaws right now that the Minnesota Vikings exposed. Now, in a week's time, can they fix those? They might not need to fix all of them because the Rams are just beaten up, battered, bruised, and broken. You might not have to fix all of those. But you got to fix some of it because that's going to be a desperate team. They are going to be desperate. They're going to try to do everything they can to win that game, scratch, fight, claw their way to a victory. And it's a divisional opponent. So both these teams are going to be desperate heading into this. So the Niners don't want to be 1-2. The Rams would like to be 1-2. And speaking of a guy who just fights, scratches, and claws to try to will his team for a victory, Fred Warner. I want to hear from this guy. Just an incredible game on display for him yesterday. But here he is as the leader of that team, taking accountability for that defense and saying the team has to play smarter.
It just hurt my soul, honestly, because we knew exactly the type of game that it was going to be, what was going to be required for us to win this game. And I told the team in there, it's never going to be an issue of us playing hard. We always play hard. We got so much talent in that room. We're always going to play hard, but it's about playing smarter. We gotta protect the football. Obviously, we got to take it away on defense. Special teams, we can't give up that block punt. And then defensively, the game plan, when we say we got to stop the run and we got to be great on third down and we don't do either of those things, it's going to be a long day. We didn't do anything to help ourselves in this game, and obviously they played better than us.
Complementary football. Vikings had it. The Niners didn't yesterday. And that is when the 49ers are at their best is when the defense complements the offense and vice versa. When the offense is sustaining long drives, when they're not turning the ball over and they're keeping that defense fresh, that gives the defense a chance to go out there and make some big-time plays. Now, they made some big-time plays, and Fred Warner specifically made some big-time plays, but it's not enough just for him to do it. And he gave his offense opportunities again. He didn't capitalize on all of them. And that's, the name of the game, capitalizing on turnovers. And the 49ers turned it over a lot. Minnesota made them pay. Could have been worse. The final score could have been, listen, if Fred Warner does not do what Fred Warner does, we're talking about a blowout here. And then we're talking about, okay, maybe this season does have a Super Bowl hangover feel to it. And it still might. Again, part of a Super Bowl hangover is just injuries happening because of a long season. We've already seen that with Christian McCaffrey with the Achilles tendonitis. He's going to be out possibly up to 8 games, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. He's already out a minimum 4. This is concerning. Offensive Player of the Year. Jordan Mason, though, I would have liked to see more carries. I understand you got kind of shut down in the second half, but you need to keep those drives and those clocks, and the defense needs a break. And it felt like far too often yesterday there was just not enough sustained drives for the 49ers. And credit to the Minnesota Vikings and their defense. Here's Kyle Shanahan talking about the run defense.
He does a good job. They were number 1 in the league last year in run defense. Looks that way this year. Thought we ran the ball pretty well, but that doesn't always score you points. You got to cross the end zone, and they mix it up a ton. He did a real good job, and we made some mistakes that cost us. And when it's like that and can't overcome those turnovers, the block punt, things like that, it's just credit to them.
From the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570. The whole I'm seeing ghosts jump the shark years ago. No. This?
Seeing ghosts.
Never does. Also, it's spooky season, right? Are we in fall yet? Come on. Or is that October 1st? Then we can officially get into Halloween mindset. It was just Friday the 13th on Friday. I don't know. Maybe Darnold saw Casper.
Seeing ghosts.
No, I'm talking Dave. The friendly ghost. Remember that movie with Christina Ricci? Back in the mid-90s? Bill Pullman, I think her dad was. Classic. 408, 100% agree, Spadoni. I do not want Brock Purdy in a shootout. No, you do not. You don't. Even if it is going up against Sam Darnold, who, again, I know we've been waxing poetically about him. He's not top 10 quarterback or anything like that, but he has enough talent. And again, it's the NFL. All these guys have talent. We like to crap and poo-poo on everything. Every single player that is at this position in this league is capable of making big-time plays. They wouldn't be in this position if they weren't. You don't get through training camp. You don't get through the draft process. You don't get to this point without being a big-time player. And Sam Darnold made a big boy throw, an NFL throw to Justin Jefferson that blew the top off the defense and was a statement play, I feel like top 5 statement play of the weekend. That bomb to Justin Jefferson. It's an incredible throw. Having said that, yes, getting in a shootout, regardless of the quarterback, is not the 49ers' way of handling another team. It's controlling the clock, slicing and dicing, Brock being a maestro, attacking that middle of the field, rolling out, extending plays with his legs, picking up the occasional first down with his feet. That's what he does, and that's what the 49ers do best. And that's what Brian Flores took away yesterday. He took away the strength of the 49ers and forced Brock Purdy to be the difference in the game. And he couldn't be. And he wasn't. Just here's Brock after the game, though, talking about how defensive, or how I should say, how tough that defensive scheme was for the Minnesota Vikings.
How difficult is it going up against that scheme, especially when you're trying to dig yourselves out of the hole?
Yeah, it's tough. First or second down, aren't positive plays and, just trying to move the ball. And then, you got to rely on third down with, their scheme and obviously their disguises and stuff. It can be tough. And, they just did a good job with making it look like one thing and it was another, and different types of blitzes and stuff, or just dropping out. So they did a lot. That's just on us. It's on me to move the ball, be efficient on first and second down, and get us in third and manageable, and then convert on third down. So it's a game of football. It's 4 quarters like that, and we had to learn the hard way.
I want to know Brock's thoughts on Brandon Ayuk and more fans are out on Brandon Ayuk. 888-957-9570. It has just not been great the first couple games. That's to be expected. But he did get paid. And you do wonder if this is going to be something that lingers throughout the season. The body language, the short answers after the presser. Is this the new norm when things aren't going well with Brandon Ayuk? Is Brock Purdy talking about his wide receiver?
I think he looks pretty good and stuff, but I don't, I'm drawn back going, BA's not like what he's been like. I don't think that at all. I think for me, I just try to go through my reads, and he's been where he needs to be. And, there's probably a couple routes maybe in certain looks where we both could have been better on some stuff, but that's just like, early in the season stuff, if you ask me. So I know that we'll continue to get better together in our connection and everything, but for 4 quarters, man, I thought BA grinded and, went and competed, man, and I'm proud of him for that.
So Brock doesn't see an issue, but that's his quarterback protecting his guy. He's not calling him out. Deebo Samuel had a great game. George Kittle had a pretty solid game. Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings had a couple receptions. The wealth was getting spread around. The distribution of wealth, shout out Bernie Sanders, was getting spread around. But you would like your guy, who was, again, second team All-Pro last year, to have a bigger impact thus far. All right, we're up against it. Vontae Hill, Joe Shasky next. Start lining them up. 888-957-9570 is the number. Minnesota Vikings 23, 49ers 17. We want to react to it all day with you right here on 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game.